This week's readings really highlighted the creativity within theater for me as it revolved around making choices as an actor and blocking and purposeful movement. I'm always looking for ways for my students to explore their character so that it feels less stiff, but they also feel comfortable taking risks and really owning the character. If you're familiar with Peter and the Starcatcher, there are many popular cultural references that thankfully are still relevant, but I also had international students in the show that I learned midway through rehearsals did not understand the references, which is why their delivery seemed so stiff and awkward. It reminded me that as a director, that I have to make sure to meet students where they're at, which can also mean introducing them to different elements of pop culture that they may be unfamiliar with, in the same way that they insist on me learning new phrases and Gen Z culture as well. I want students to be able to feel connected to their character, so working with them to be imaginative and creative is certainly a bulk of all the fun in the rehearsal process. The movement is always where I think we have the most amount of laughs, as I frequently, apparently, tell them to remind them to be human and to just move their limbs, as it is very easy for them to get on stage and just suddenly freeze up or kind of be unsure as to what to do. So reminding them to just move and just continue to inhabit a human tends to be very helpful. Setting clear communications with students and the collaborative team early on also helps with keeping everyone on the same page and then moving forward with those same goals. It's certainly more enjoyable to enjoy meeting these milestones with others than with others. So I would definitely suggest, sharing those goals with your students as well so that they can feel a sense of accomplishment during the process and not just in the reflection at the end. Now, I'm not sure if this is a pro tip or not, but I would say just, don't be afraid to just jump on stage and be silly with your cast. During Clue, my student who played Miss Peacock was terribly, terribly nervous about the hysterical crying in the scene closer towards the end of the show where she is later on slapped by Mr. Plum. But she was very nervous from the hysterical crying because she was one of the only freshmen in the cast and didn't want to be silly on stage. She didn't want to be afraid. She didn't want to be laughed at for having to do something so silly. But having members of the collaborative team and myself actually going up on stage and then playing around with the same scene, helping to make them laugh and just see the fun and the humor in it, it took that frightening element away. And of course, you want to make sure you're not using up too much time, but I think trying to remember that as much as they want the role, you want to also make sure that at least understanding that their self-image is still also important to them as well, and that helps keep that frustration at bay when they don't fully commit to a role immediately. I think a pro tip, just in reflecting this past year, as I helped a musical at another school, while directing my own, and seeing just a difference between our two different styles as directors and how we incorporated both our cast and our crew together. A pro tip for me would be to have the crew with your cast as much as possible when it is appropriate. I have my cast stay with my crew from the very beginning, so they are together. We do the first reading of the script with the crew sitting interspersed with the cast so that they can feel like they're all part of the production process and then learn to value one another as well. It also helps your younger individuals feel more welcome, especially if they realize these potential new friends aren't just in the group they're with, whether that's the crew or the cast, that it's with everyone helping with the interaction between them all. And sometimes that can also mean fostering the interaction, but I haven't really had to do that fostering. Why I would suggest doing that is the school that I helped out with, they actually don't integrate the two groups together at all, which I thought was interesting and strange because there was definitely a bit of a tension between the cast and the crew where there was definitely a bit of animosity, where the crew felt as though they were, I guess, second to the cast, and they weren't really getting invited to do things with the cast. So before the show, those warm-ups and that excitement, those speeches for "you're going to be great," somehow they weren't included. I think it's important just to remember to include them when you can so that they can also be part of this and the whole group can come together more cohesively and creating a much more friendlier environment. Thank you.